I accompanied Owen from rags to riches, and his ex-girlfriend said to me, "I will gradually take Owen back from you." No, did she hide when human evolution took place? She can even say such beastly words. Well, I thought she was the only one left out in the history of human evolution, but it turns out there's another one. Chapter 1. 7 days before the wedding, while trying on my wedding dress, I came across Owen's ex-girlfriend's Weibo. Owen was holding her hand. Caption, "Still in love." 3 minutes later, I saw Owen's response. "I want to continue entangling with you." The official announcement of their reunion sounded romantic, but not if I wasn't Owen's wife. The salesgirl at the bridal shop noticed me staring at my phone without saying a word for a while and asked, "Ivy, is there something you're not satisfied with?" I looked up at myself in the mirror, dressed in a pure white wedding gown. The dress was custom-made according to my liking. I was indeed quite satisfied with it. That's why I took a photo to send to Owen, but ended up with such a ridiculous incident. I forced a smile and replied, "A little something." I stood up and walked to the corridor to call Owen, but he hung up. Shortly after, he sent a message. "In a meeting." Yes, he went on a business trip the day before. He said it was a very important project that required his presence. Now it seems quite important indeed, a project worth several billion. Owen returned my call an hour later. On the phone, his tone was gentle. "Ivy, what's wrong?" From his tone, it was clear that he still had no idea that his affair with his ex-girlfriend had been exposed. Chapter 2. I have known Owen for 7 years. From my 21st year to my 28th. I have been with him from nothing to now being the owner of 2 companies. Not exactly a wealthy family, but he is now a prominent figure in City A. The reason I first met Owen was because I was job hunting after graduation. He was 3 years older than me and had been working for 3 years, venturing out on his own. The company was newly established and needed people. Especially someone like me, a naive fool fresh out of society. With just one promise, he kept me by his side for 7 years, even when I drank until I vomited, worked day and night on projects, and even when other companies offered me higher salaries, I never thought of leaving. I went from being an intern to the company's president. And our romantic relationship began with a one-night stand 2 years ago. After a night of heavy drinking at a party, we woke up, and he said, "Ivy, I'll take responsibility." I don't remember what my mood was like at that time. It should have been joyful. After all, I had been secretly in love with him for 3 years. Falling for him was quite easy. He was born with a face that made people fall in love at first sight. We once stayed up all night working on a project together in City A, drank with clients until dawn while lying on the vast earth under the starry sky, and faced ridicule and obstacles together. Once, in order to secure a project, we drank with clients until the early hours of the morning. On the way back, we passed by City A's City Square. He stopped the car, pulled me to lie down in the center of the square, and with a hint of alcohol on his breath, said to me, "Ivy, one day, I will move the company's headquarters here. In the upscale area with an average price of 100,000. I teased him. "Are you sleep-talking? We're both quite tired, dreaming about everything." But then he suddenly turned his head, looked at me seriously, and said, "I'll also buy you a big flat here as a reward for never leaving me." When he looked at me, the entire starry sky was reflected in his eyes, his smile almost dazzling, and his tone so sincere. I think I completely fell in love with him at that moment. Chapter 3. The night we got together was also the celebration of the establishment of a branch office. By then, he had already moved the company's headquarters to the city square and rewarded me with a set of a large flat in the city square. The company had grown from just 5 people to hundreds. At the celebration, in front of everyone, he put his arm around my shoulder and said, "Without Ivy, the company wouldn't have its current scale, nor would I be where I am today. Here, this toast is to Ivy." His words were somewhat exaggerated, but also true. In those years, the moments when he couldn't go on, I stayed by his side and endured them together. Even the establishment of the branch office was all done by me. After the celebration, he got too excited and insisted on going home with me, talking about the company's development for the next 20 years. The result was that we ended up talking in bed. When we woke up, and he said he wanted to take responsibility, I hesitated and was unsure. He noticed my hesitation and said, "Ivy, I've liked you for a long time, and I can't find another girl who can stay with me as long as you have." We had been together for 2 years, and I knew he had an ex-girlfriend named Lila. The same age as me, she and Owen had a college romance. She was Owen's junior. Their first love lasted for 3 years. After she graduated from university, she left City A, and Owen didn't want to go with her. They peacefully broke up. Interestingly, the money Owen initially used to start the company was actually intended for a dowry for marrying Lila and buying a house. This was something Owen mentioned when we were lying under the stars for the first time, drunk. He said, "If I had married Lila back then, I would probably be living a regular 9-to-5 office worker life now." There was regret in his tone, but also openness. So, I've never really paid attention to her existence. Even when Lila suddenly came back to City A over a year ago and secretly followed my Weibo, I just casually followed her back, never mentioning this to Owen. I thought Owen and I were mutually committed, and who remembers such a distant love as adults, right? Now, it seems I've been proven wrong. Chapter 4. I'm someone who believes seeing is believing. Over the phone, I didn't confront Owen, and after hanging up, I sent him our wedding photos. Owen said, "My Ivy, so beautiful." I accepted his praise, booked the nearest flight that day, and flew Owen to City B for his business trip. After landing, while checking Weibo again, I came across Lila's update. Planning to visit a popular spot. Coincidentally, I knew that place. I had been there with Owen when we first got together, a romantic restaurant. When I arrived by taxi, I coincidentally witnessed Owen presenting the red roses prepared by the restaurant to Lila. They were seated by the window, not needing to step out, visible at a glance. Lila in a light blue long dress, Owen in a light blue casual outfit. It was obvious they were dressed as a couple. Owen used to say he hated couple photos, calling them childish. Now it seems, it's not that he finds them childish, it's just that I'm not the one he wants to be childish with. I got out of the car, leaned against a crooked tree by the roadside, and called Owen, feeling a bit unsteady. Owen glanced at his phone, then eventually hung up, replying to me. "In a meeting." At that moment, I found it hard to describe my feelings, anger, sadness, even a touch of despair. I had to look up at the sky and fight back the tears threatening to fall. It took me a while to calm my emotions. I looked down at the wedding ring Owen had recently given me, took it off, tossed it into the nearby trash can, and then sent him a photo of him dining with Lila. Let's talk about divorce after dinner. About 3 minutes passed before Owen checked his phone, as during those 3 minutes, Lila was persistently asking him to take a photo together. In those 3 minutes, they changed poses 8 times. A 360-degree view illuminated their extramarital affair. Yes, Owen and I got our marriage license last month. But the wedding was scheduled for 7 days later. After reading the message, Owen anxiously turned to look at me outside the window. He hurriedly got up, left the room, and ran towards me. Lila, confused, followed him out, then turned to see me. After a fleeting smile appeared on her face, she followed Owen out as well. Chapter 5. Are you sure you want to treat me like this, Owen? In all these years in the workplace, whether it's sarcasm or hidden agendas, I've experienced it all. I could always smile and handle things with ease. I consider myself to have excellent temperament and manners. But watching my husband and his lover show up in front of me dressed as a couple, I had to exert a great deal of effort to suppress the urge to roar. Only then did Owen notice that Lila had followed him out. He turned and said, "Lila, you go first." Lila didn't leave and wanted to provoke me. "Ivy, just now President Owen was talking to me about you. Don't misunderstand, I just happened to run into President Owen here. I would rather this be a misunderstanding, but damn it, When you left, you still plucked a petal of a red rose and held it in your hand to assert your dominance in front of me. Are you so afraid that I won't see through your little game? I briefly closed my eyes, not wanting to speak to this third party without any moral integrity. I was afraid it would lower my own moral standards. I looked at Owen and said, "You have 1 minute to make this damn thing disappear in front of me." But Lila continued to provoke me. "Ivy, how can you be like this? You have no manners at all, you don't even listen to explanations, and just randomly define things for us. Manners my ass." I was furious but laughed. "Indeed, I can't compare to someone like you, a fish that sneaks away during human evolution." Lila was speechless. I said, "If you have nothing to do, go clean the toilets, don't blabber here." Lila's face turned pale, and she eventually left. Chapter 6. After Lila left, Owen and I went back into the couple restaurant. Hungry. I didn't want to keep looking for a place to eat. The bill for being hurt by a scumbag can be settled slowly, but I have to take care of my own stomach. Over the years, for the company, I've drunk too much, and my stomach has suffered. If I don't eat, I get stomach pains. Owen originally wanted to find another place to eat, probably because he felt guilty. But I didn't agree. It was too coincidental for this restaurant to serve red roses with the meal, right? The waitress who just gave the red rose to Owen earlier is the same one giving it to him now. I clearly saw her stunned expression, with a look on her face that said, "Can this really happen?" I watched Owen take the red rose and shoved a chopstick of food into my mouth, asking, "Do we still need this thing now?" After a while, Owen said, "Ivy." I cut him off. "Don't talk to me about these disgusting things while I'm eating, I might throw up. Have some consideration for my stomach, which has been ruined over the years due to bowing and scraping for the company." A tinge of guilt flashed across Owen's face. The meal took 2 hours. During those 2 hours, my brain was spinning fast, thinking about divorce matters. I'm not seriously ill, and my brain is fine. Forgiveness once may lead to a second time. While we don't have children yet, we can cleanly cut ties. Our property dispute is a company matter. I have no relationship with the headquarters, I am a shareholder in the branch. When we got our marriage certificate, we didn't do a property notarization. But under the new marriage law, it won't allow me to take half of Owen's property based on a useless marriage certificate. But I didn't expect that when I was thinking about divorce, Owen was thinking about the wedding 7 days later not being affected. He said, "Ivy, I don't want to divorce you." I was stunned and asked back, "Not divorce, so the 3 of us live together? In the wedding 7 days later, you hold my left hand and Lila's right hand?" I paused. "Well, I really feel that because I have a bit of a moral bottom line, I appear incompatible with you people who have no moral bottom line." Owen was speechless. After a long while, I asked, "When did you two start again? Before we got our marriage certificate or after we got it?" It took a while for Owen to say, "We didn't start again." "No restart, then what are you now? Coming to add some plants to our lives, bring some fresh air?" I continued. Owen's temper was not very good. After I said this, he was a little angry, but eventually suppressed it and said, "Ivy, you're upset now. Let's calm down for 2 days before discussing this, okay?" I agreed. It's good to calm down for 2 days. I am indeed upset now. I'm afraid I might forget what belongs to me in anger and misjudge it for Owen. Chapter 7. On the way to the hotel, Owen kept trying to argue with me. But probably unable to argue, he hesitated several times and ultimately didn't speak. When we arrived at the hotel, he even tried to get me into a room. I looked at him. "Owen, you've known me for 7 years, right? Do you think I would use something someone else has used?" The temper he had suppressed from being caught cheating finally erupted at this moment. "Ivy, can you watch your words a bit?" I chuckled. "This is nothing compared to Lila, who doesn't need to do anything for you. Just smiles gently at you, waves at you, and you're like a dog, willing to compromise even your moral standards for her." As for me, all these years fighting for the company's interests, what sharp words haven't I said? Owen, I'm sorry, Ivy. I slammed the door in front of him. As soon as the door closed, the tears I had been holding back for hours finally fell. In a flash, memories of the 7 years we spent together flashed through my mind. When we first met, he said, Ivy, we will definitely become the most compatible partners. When we drank together, he said, Ivy, one day we won't need to drink with anyone else. When we were newly together, he said, Ivy, the most faithful confession is companionship. Let's accompany each other for a lifetime. When we got our marriage certificate, he said, Ivy, please guide me in the rest of our lives. And now. He ruined my 7 years of expectations. Tears fell, and only then did I realize the suffocating pain in my chest. This pain connects with every nerve in my body, like it wants to skin me alive and drain all my strength. While I was crying uncontrollably, Lila sent me a private message on Weibo. She said, Owen has always been unwilling to make our relationship public. Do you know under what circumstances I coaxed him to post that Weibo? Chapter 8. Just the thought of Owen rolling in the sheets with Lila after we got our marriage certificate made my stomach churn and feel nauseous. In the end, I vomited from the nausea. I even vomited in the hospital. My stomach illness flared up again. Making a trip to City B, getting myself admitted to the hospital, was already miserable enough. But I didn't expect it could get even worse. After I was admitted to the hospital, Owen, with an attitude of seeking redemption, stayed with me the whole time, even though I didn't want him there. He put his phone on silent, but it kept lighting up continuously. It must have been messages from Lila using another phone to contact him. After all, since I arrived in City B, Owen stopped answering her calls and didn't go see her. He even deleted and blocked all of Lila's contact information to show loyalty to me. So, on the 3rd day in the hospital, I received a desperate message from Lila. She said, Ivy, I'm not trying to steal Owen from you. All I want is to fulfill the promise Owen and I made when we were young, to go on a trip together before your wedding. Why did you have to show up? She said, if I really wanted to get back together with Owen, do you think you two would still have a chance? Seeing that I ignored her, half an hour later, she messaged again. Ivy, I didn't intend to compete with you for Owen. But, from now on, I will make you watch as I slowly take Owen away from you. She wasn't just talking. A few minutes later, Owen's phone lit up again. Owen happened to glance at the screen, and his face visibly paled. After days of staying by my side and refusing to leave, he suddenly stood up with a swish. I glanced at him, he sat back down and said, Ivy, there's something urgent I need to handle. I'll be back soon, okay? I asked knowingly. If I say it's not okay, will you not go? Owen said, I'm sorry, and eventually left. Chapter 9. I was discharged from the hospital as quickly as possible and returned to City A. In those 3 days, I had already figured everything out. People who don't want to stay, let them go. Sand that can't be held, might as well let it scatter. Just as I returned to City A, the partner of the branch company, Caleb, came to see me about work matters. Yes, I have always been managing the branch company. Upon careful consideration, Owen's reconciliation with Lila might have happened because of me managing the branch company, and after being stationed there, I was no longer frequently by Owen's side. However, it doesn't matter anymore. The fact that they can reconcile now only proves that they both have the intention to reconcile. Even if I tied Owen to my waist, they would still have a chance to reconcile. Caleb finished discussing work matters with me and casually said, You really are a workaholic. Your wedding is coming up soon, shouldn't you be preparing for it? The news about canceling the wedding with Owen hadn't been announced yet. But since it was going to be cancelled anyway, I mentioned it to Caleb in advance. Wedding cancelled. Caleb suddenly looked up. What's wrong? After all these years with CEO Owen, don't tell me you two are breaking up. Years of companionship meant nothing in the face of a beckoning first love. I didn't want to show too much emotion in front of Caleb. We were partners, and showing too much emotion could affect the company's development. I said. I just saved you some dowry money, is that not good? Caleb was a bit at a loss. He wasn't good at consoling people, and after knowing him for over 4 years, I was well aware of this. His classic saying was, "Love brain affects the speed of making money." If you asked him to comfort a heartbroken girl, he might just say, "Love brain, isn't that messing things up?" Seeing his slightly flustered face, I added, "Don't stick around here affecting my work. If you have time for gossip, help the company negotiate with your dad on the next project." Caleb was speechless. After Caleb left, I had dinner with my parents and casually informed them about canceling the wedding, asking them to inform the relatives who had received invitations. Both of them were indignant. My dad rolled up his sleeves, almost wanting to fly to City B and beat Owen to death, while my mom was directly moved to tears. Luckily, my parents truly loved me. Even though they knew canceling the wedding might become a joke among relatives, they firmly stated that the wedding had to be called off. Chapter 10. A day after Owen returned to City A, I placed the divorce agreement directly in front of him. But even at this point, Owen still adamantly refused to divorce. He even tried to persuade me to continue with the wedding. He said, "Ivy, the day after tomorrow is the wedding day. If we cancel the wedding now, it would be a disgrace to both families. My parents are getting older." I interrupted him. "Owen, face is a good thing, don't treat it like a butt." Owen was momentarily speechless. I continued. "I've already packed all your things and sent them back to your original villa. From now on, I hope you never step foot in this house again." I didn't know how Owen explained things to his parents. That night, his mother called me and tried to persuade me. After seeing my resolute attitude, she said, "Ivy, although this is Owen's fault, canceling the wedding at this critical moment, you're being too stubborn." She added, "Besides, now that you're divorcing Owen, can you find someone better than him? Everything you have now, including the house you live in, was given to you by Owen, isn't it?" I didn't want to argue with her, but if she wanted an argument, she couldn't blame me for being sharp-tongued. I replied, "Everything I have now is the result of my hard work. The success of the main company is the result of Owen and I working together. I practically built the branch company from scratch. So, you don't need to try to manipulate me." I didn't give her a chance to interrupt me and continued saying, "If you think cheating can be forgiven, and cheating and divorce are just whimsical, then I wish you well. Maybe in the future, you'll have the opportunity to live with your husband's mistress and her descendants under one roof." She was so furious at my last words that she started scolding me. But I didn't let her finish. After she said, "I never agreed to your marriage in the first place, and now you dare to cause trouble for my family." I hung up on her and promptly added her to the blacklist. I knew very well why she didn't approve of my marriage to Owen in the first place. I was too strong-willed, couldn't always go along with her, and even went against her. When the subsidiary was just established, she wanted to place her useless relatives in management positions. Since Owen couldn't refuse her, he pushed me out instead. I gave her a flat-out rejection. So, when I was discussing marriage with Owen, she came to me alone and tried to assert her dominance. She insisted that I must have a son in the future. I subtly asked her, "What if it's not a son?" She arrogantly replied, "Then keep trying until you have a son. What use is a woman if she can't even give birth to a son?" All daughters-in-law who are bullied by their mothers-in-law have one common pitfall: from the very beginning, they lower their own status. Even when someone is stepping all over you, you still try to treat them like your own mother. Therefore, to crush her ambitions of controlling me in the future, I directly told her, "Read more books. Don't think you've entered the circle of noble ladies before you've even set foot in it." She wanted me to leave the company after getting married and become a full-time housewife. She said a woman who is always working outside doesn't know anything. She might as well be out selling herself. I chuckled and said to her, "In the past, women just bound their feet. You seem to have bound your brain as well. She complained to Owen that I insulted her. I retorted to Owen. Am I crazy for insulting my mother-in-law before even entering the door? After hearing my response, Owen probably understood what was going on. So, after we got married, we lived in my spacious flat and didn't live with his mother. It wasn't that Owen favored me, he simply didn't want to deal with the conflicts between me and his mother. Or perhaps, he was well aware that even if he had 10 mothers, it wouldn't be enough for me, nor could they control me. I thought I could have a dignified divorce with Owen. We are all human, there's no need to tear each other apart. However, it seems I overestimated Owen. Or perhaps, over all these years, I never truly understood Owen. The day after I blocked his mother's number, he wanted me to leave with nothing, including giving up my shares in the subsidiary. He even hoped I would relinquish the large flat in the city square that was rewarded to me for my achievements. He said, on the phone, "Ivy, as long as you don't divorce, the wedding will continue tomorrow, and we can discuss these matters again." I knew why he didn't want to divorce me. Once we divorced, the company's stock would definitely be affected, and he might lose control of the subsidiary. After all, I was the one who built up the subsidiary from scratch, and besides investing some money initially, he hadn't done anything else. Moreover, we were planning to establish a second subsidiary, still under my leadership. He didn't want to lose me as his capable assistant. But for Owen to say such words, was he not fully awake, or did he think I wasn't fully awake? He even tried to brainwash me. Ivy, in this circle, so many people have sugar daddies, some even go their separate ways after marriage. Isn't it better to live differently? I asked. Are you suggesting that I lower my moral standards and also find a young lover? He fell silent. After a while, he said, I will cut ties with Lila. Hypocrite. He probably can't really cut ties with Lila. A few days ago, he chose to leave me and go to Lila because Lila threatened suicide. This suicide threat was even romanticized by Lila. The captions on Weibo were so beautiful and romantic. Without you, I will never have the ability to love anyone else again. It goes along with the saying, children who throw tantrums get candy. But I promptly blocked her, having seen too much, fearing I might be infected with craziness. Chapter 11. Of course, the wedding did not proceed as planned. Owen publicly claimed it was postponed. He did not agree to the divorce agreement, so I directly consulted a lawyer and filed for divorce in court. He panicked completely after my application. He once again humbled himself to come to me, saying, Ivy, I was just confused at that time. Lila wanted to reconcile with me, and I had a few drinks, so I did this absurd thing. I ignored him. After that, every now and then, he would stage a hair-raising drama downstairs, trying to get my attention. The irony is, perhaps because I blocked Lila, she couldn't report her progress with Owen to me anymore. So, she had to find other ways to provoke me. Once, I was working late into the night. When Owen came to wait for me to finish work, I saw lipstick marks on his collar. If he couldn't even perform a simple drama, what use was he? Pointing at the lipstick mark on his collar, I asked, Is this what you meant by cutting ties with Lila? Owen opened his mouth but didn't say a word. I said, Owen, let's part ways amicably. Don't come to disgust me anymore. You know, I never go back on my decisions. For the rest of the month, Owen finally quieted down. Probably went to argue with Lila. Not long after, I received a message from Lila. Ivy, why don't you just die? I calmly mocked her back. What, is suicide not working for you anymore? Perhaps she didn't push Owen enough to divorce me. She also approached me, inviting me to a coffee shop downstairs at the company, claiming she had something important to discuss. I didn't want to meet her at first, but then I thought, why not witness the diversity of species? So, I accepted the invitation. She was there to disturb my peace. Owen said he and Lila would reconcile because he had been drinking, and Lila had made advances. But the truth is, over a year ago, the reason Lila returned to City A was that Owen brought her back. Over a year ago, Owen went on a business trip to her city, and it was Owen who reached out to her first. She said. Do you know what Owen said when he approached me? She answered herself. Owen said that not marrying me back then was the biggest regret of his life. If he could turn back time, he would rather give up his current wealth and choose to be with me, to marry me. She smiled triumphantly. A game of money was forcefully twisted by her into love. I was already in a bad mood, and the thought of Owen betraying me for over a year made it even worse. I couldn't stand seeing her smile, so I asked her 3 questions in return. Is Owen married to you now? If Owen really loves you, why did he marry me in the first place? If it's true love between you, why is Owen still unwilling to divorce me? Her smile vanished at my questions. I asked myself. You're after his money, he's after the novelty he didn't fully experience with you, or rather, the excitement he didn't get. An extramarital affair that not even a dog would look at, a sordid transaction, yet you managed to call it love. Even a dog would approve at that. Lila was somewhat hysterical from my retorts. Ivy, why can't you just leave Owen alone? I gave her a sharp look. Being a homewrecker so boldly like you, that's a first in my life. Don't provoke me anymore, or I'll ruin your reputation. After some thought, still feeling unsatisfied, I decided to hit her where it hurt. Also, now that Owen has weighed the pros and cons, he feels you're of no use, just a burden to him, and doesn't want to continue with you anymore. He comes to me, not the other way around, got it? If you have any bit of usefulness left, please hurry and get Owen to divorce me. As long as they don't divorce, I'll feel disgusted every day. Lila's face turned pale instantly. A useless person who depends on men. But in order to get a quicker divorce from Owen, I was willing to offer her a shortcut, saying, instead of wasting time being humiliated here, you should think about how to please your future mother-in-law. Chapter 12. After dealing with Lila, I coincidentally ran into Caleb outside. I don't know how long Caleb had been listening, but he had a look of disbelief and said, You can tolerate this? Just go up and slap her to make her face reality. I rolled my eyes at Caleb. I don't want to get into trouble, causing a scene would affect the company's reputation. Caleb nodded thoughtfully. True, the company also involves me, can't encourage such behavior. I was speechless. Caleb insisted on taking me to lunch, mainly for gossip, and even brought up his status as a shareholder, saying, I think I have the right to know about this matter. You're a decision maker in the company, and if things don't end well between you and Owen, I need to mitigate risks and withdraw my investment. I was speechless once again. He continued. You know, my initial investment was based on your work ethic, believing you would bring me profits. My dad even warned me not to be blindly deceived and advised me against it. Yes, Caleb was a second-generation rich kid, determined to make it on his own without relying on his wealthy father. What he said was true. To get Caleb to invest, I had to have 3 drinks with him before finally sealing the deal. It had been over a month, and I hadn't told anyone about Owen, Lila, and me. Keeping it all inside was frustrating, so I decided to spill everything to Caleb. I even mentioned Owen's comment about this industry being full of bosses who keep mistresses. After listening, Caleb remarked, Love makes people stupid. Owen's actions show he's not planning to be a good person, right? Isn't that obvious? Owen would have let me go a long time ago if he still intended to be a person and divorced me. He would never compromise to threaten me. Even when he knew we were evenly matched, he dared to say ridiculous things like kicking me out of the house. Seeing me down, Caleb said, Don't let him manipulate you. What's wrong with this circle? In this circle, there are scumbags, but also good men. Chapter 13. Due to the trouble between Owen and me, even though neither of us had publicly disclosed the reason for the delayed wedding, the company inevitably felt the impact. Just over a month later, after the expiration of the contracts for 3 main projects, negotiations did not proceed. Since I was the one who initiated those 3 collaborations, they were concerned about the changes in the company following our split. Business people are indeed shrewd. So, Owen came to see me again. He started by questioning me. Ivy, even if we are getting divorced, you don't need to mess with the company was once your hard work. I didn't understand what he was saying for a moment. Leaving aside the fact that I didn't actually mess with the company, he seemed to forget that just over a month ago, he wanted me out. And what does the profit and loss of the main company have to do with me? I looked at him with a dumbfounded expression. Have you been spending too much time with dogs, getting assimilated? Barking at everyone you see? Owen was speechless for a moment. Having known me for 7 years, he still somewhat understood me. Seeing me boldly scold him like that, knowing that I didn't give him any leeway, he said, Ivy, I'm sorry. Then he went on to apologize and say nice things, all with one purpose, to make me intervene again in renegotiating the contracts of the main company's collaborations. I once again slammed the divorce agreement in front of him. Sign this, get divorced, stop bothering me, and I might consider it. Owen probably knew my vindictive personality. If we really got divorced, not to mention helping him negotiate contracts, it would be good enough for me to start my own company and compete for his business. So, he refused once again. But I know he will come to me for a divorce soon. At most, a month. Because I received another message from Lila, still in a provocative tone. Ivy, your victory won't last long, I will make sure Owen divorces you. She had reasons to be so confident, she was pregnant and aiming to secure her place as a mother. She even cleverly went to please Owen's mother. She was willing to grovel in front of Owen's mother, letting the old lady have a taste of being the Empress Dowager, which was far more effective than my sharp-tongued provocations. Now that she's pregnant, Owen's mother is even happier and has taken her side. Thank her, she finally did a good deed. Chapter 14. Sure enough, just half a month later, Owen came to me to discuss the divorce, but shamelessly, he still hoped I would leave with nothing. He said, Ivy, you must divorce, unless you leave with nothing, I won't agree to the divorce. The only compensation I can offer is not taking back the large flat I gave you at City Square. He also thought of me. If you want a clean break from me, if you don't give up your shares in the branch company, we will have to remain entangled, right? I looked at Owen, who was cold and negotiating with me, and at that moment, all the love I had for him in the past completely disappeared. I really never understood him. I looked at him again with a dumbfounded expression. Before you came to see me, did you provoke a donkey at the stable? He had a restrained anger on his face. Ivy. I said, I didn't provoke a donkey, why are you talking like your brain just got kicked by a donkey? He was about to get angry, but I cut him off. Owen, from the moment I found out about your affair until now, have I ever said anything negative about you in the media or publicly disclosed your affair? If I wanted to make a big scene, embarrass everyone, and expose your affair to the media, how much would the contracts I signed for the main company be affected? Owen was speechless for a moment. I scolded him. How dare you, after having an affair, still demand that I leave with nothing? Getting angrier as I spoke, I threatened him. Let's end things amicably. If you don't want that, we can do it the hard way. Tomorrow, I'll issue a press release, blow up your affair and the fact that the mistress is pregnant, and make public the fact that you want your self-made wife to leave with nothing. If you both don't care about your reputation anymore, I'll gladly help you lose face. Owen was somewhat surprised, probably thinking I didn't know about Lila's pregnancy. If the divorce proceedings took too long and Owen kept delaying, I wouldn't even want to see him. Disgusting. Divorce truly reveals one's character. Chapter 15. After a long month of extreme tug-of-war, the marriage finally ended. After our divorce, I still managed the branch company. He was probably afraid I would find a way to kick him out of the branch company or do something detrimental to him. He made significant changes to the branch company and forced in people I had previously rejected, just to mess with my mind. Or maybe to monitor me. Not satisfied with these actions, he proposed to buy the shares of the branch company from me. It just so happened that I wanted to get rid of it too. Second to not wanting any ties with him anymore, the main reason was that with his methods, the company would soon go downhill. He could face the consequences of his actions. I didn't want to be dragged down with him. Moreover, Owen and I were planning to establish a second branch company. Now, I wanted to do it on my own. So, I demanded a price 3 times higher than the market value. After some haggling back and forth, Owen reluctantly agreed to my terms. I didn't do much, just had someone secretly analyze the situation for Lila. If Owen and I continued to have contact after the divorce due to company matters, she might end up being a mere mosquito's blood, while I could end up in the moonlight. After all, what's lost and unattainable is the most desirable. She was a prime example of that. Furthermore, the gender of the child in her belly, which Owen's mother had checked, turned out to be a boy. Using this son, Lila constantly picked fights with Owen. Every time I met with Owen because of company matters, she would create a scene. One time, I had an argument with Owen in the office and scolded him. If you really don't want to be entangled with Ivy anymore, why can't you cleanly break it off with her? Do you want to treat me the same way you treated Ivy before, marrying me and still being entangled with Ivy? Owen scolded her. I'm already married to you, can't you stop being unreasonable? Lila asked with reason. But isn't that what you did before? She really lived up to her position as the third party, more alert than me. She got too agitated and ended up having prenatal complications, so she had to be hospitalized. For the sake of the child in her belly, Owen had to accept my high asking price. Therefore, in the 3rd month after the divorce, I took the money and withdrew from the branch company. Chapter 16. After withdrawing from the branch company, I was so busy preparing for my own company that I didn't have time to keep track of Owen and Lila. But I didn't expect that in the 3rd month after I withdrew from the branch company, Caleb also divested from the company. He came to me and said, "I heard you're planning to go solo, count me in." I asked, "Why not make money while you have it and stay in? Why pull out?" The branch company had been running quite well for the past 2 years, at least all the money the shareholders had invested had been recouped within 2 years. Now, isn't it a good time to continue reaping the dividends? Caleb chuckled. If we don't pull out now, do we wait until the company starts losing money and then lose together? I was puzzled. Caleb said, "Do you know why I didn't partner with love-brained people and sanctimonious folks to start a company together? Because partnering with these 2 types of people would turn the company into a family business, filled with useless and troublesome relatives. Well, I thought Owen was just trying to make things difficult for me, forcing me to give up my shares and abandon the company, so he decided to bring in all those useless relatives of his. Little did I know, he really had lost his mind. He even brought in Lila's relatives, and even pushed out a few managers I had originally brought in. They really were my benefactors. Due to having some moral standards, I was a bit regretful that I couldn't bring along those few managers I had originally brought in, and they just came to me. 2 months later, my company officially started operating. On the first evening of the company's official operation, several shareholders and managers had dinner together. Caleb strongly insisted on investing in the company, and even brought along his 3 wealthy buddy brothers. During dinner, he nodded towards his 3 brothers, clinked his glass with my teacup, and said, "Ivy, look, these are all good men I picked for you. All single, brother material, handsome and charming. Know what I mean?" I twitched at the corner of my mouth and rolled my eyes at him. He continued, "No need to thank me. If you really want to thank me, work hard so I can make money while lying at home." I said, "I really appreciate you, a money-obsessed person who only cares about making money, yet still takes the time to inquire about my love life." He took it in stride. "Of course, you are my money tree now. Remember, as long as you have money, boyfriends will line up at the kindergarten." He patted my shoulder again, saying, "Stay away from scumbags and third parties, life will be half as good. Come on, let's toast to the wonderful life ahead." I rolled my eyes at him once again. Chapter 17. Caleb was right, staying away from scumbags and third parties makes life half as good. For example, 2 years later, I happily finished a cooperation discussion in the city square and coincidentally saw Lila and Owen having an unhappy argument. I enjoyed watching the drama. If I didn't have to rush to buy melon seeds now, I would have bought 2 bags of melon seeds and watched the show while snacking. I stopped for a while to listen. I probably understood the whole story. After Lila's relatives entered the company, they used their authority to embezzle a considerable amount of money. Owen was initially unaware because her relative intended to use the next project to cover up their embezzlement, but the next project failed and was intercepted by someone else. Since the embezzled money from Lila's relative wasn't covered up, the truth came to light. Owen chased after that sum of money, but it had already been gambled away by Lila's relative. So, Owen sued Lila's relative. Now, that relative of Lila's has been arrested. And that relative is still Lila's blood relative, her uncle. Otherwise, Lila wouldn't have come to publicly scold Owen. When it comes to being ruthless, no one can beat Owen. So, Lila is now scolding Owen, calling him heartless and lacking humanity. Owen said, "Lila, I've given you face, right? When you were scheming and even lied to me and my mother to marry me, why didn't you say I was heartless and lacked humanity? Since I'm heartless and lack humanity, let's divorce, and you can roll as far away as possible." Lila had nothing to say. Owen spoke harshly, and Lila dared not speak up. Well, she had worked so hard to push me out and become Owen's wife. If she easily divorces now, who will bear her high expenses? Since Owen could do things like trying to kick me out with no regard, he might not show any mercy towards her. She didn't have the confidence I had back then. I turned to Caleb, who was discussing projects with me, and asked, "Who intercepted it? I'll send him a gift." Today, I was talking with Caleb's father, and since Caleb was present, his father would be more accommodating, so he brought him along. Caleb said, "Wasn't it you? It was the deal that CEO Peter personally came to you for last month. In the past 2 years, many of the cooperations with Owen's company were negotiated by me. After I went solo, in addition to retaliating against Owen for betraying me and forcing me out of the company, I also snatched many of his clients. Moreover, Owen changed many managers I had brought in before, so when many of the previous cooperative projects with his company expired, my managers dug them up. There were too many, I can't remember." I felt embarrassed. "Oh, okay, I'll buy myself a gift today." Caleb also joked. "Remember to get me one too. I had planned to go out with my future girlfriend today. You dragged me back to work, so I should be compensated, right?" I chuckled. "I helped you reject a blind date at home that you didn't want to attend, and now you're using it against me. Look at how capable you are." Caleb rolled his eyes at me. Chapter 18. Life never stops at a single scene, it's like a soap opera. If you pay attention. Not even a month later, when I had a cold and went to the hospital, I saw Lila and Owen's mother having a heated argument again. Last time Owen accused Lila of using all her tricks and lying to him, and his mother was true. Over a year ago, Lila's child was born, a daughter. Owen's mother was more vicious in her words than Owen, she would say whatever was the most hurtful. Owen's mother was furious. "You can't even give birth to a son, what's the use? Hurry up and abort that money-losing thing in your belly." Well, it turns out she's pregnant again and came to check the baby's gender. Lila must have been enduring a lot of frustration during this time and couldn't hold back. She retaliated. "You call my daughter a money-losing thing, but aren't you a woman yourself? Who are you calling a witch?" Owen's mother immediately started arguing back. "I'm calling you a little slut. If it weren't for you, how would my son have divorced Ivy and married you, a criminal's niece? Tell your family to return all the embezzled money, otherwise, you'll see." Lila was no pushover and hit back with, "If it weren't for you wanting to be the queen mother, would you have agreed so readily for Owen to divorce Ivy and marry me? You're just mad because you can't handle Ivy." I rolled my eyes silently. "Let me tell you, thank you." When things got heated, Owen's mother decided to take action. She slapped Lila hard across the face, leaving 5 distinct fingerprints on her face. She even grabbed Lila's hair and continued to scold her. "How dare a little slut like you talk back to me, watch me beat you to death today." I felt a tingling sensation on my scalp. Then, I took out my phone, took a picture, and then proceeded to call the police. My assistant was still the lovely one I had before. She had left Owen's subsidiary and joined me. She was well aware of the love-hate relationship between Owen and me and stared at me in disbelief at my actions, asking, "Ivy, it's such a good show, why did you call the police when it was getting interesting?" I said, "No need to thank me." Assistant said, "I might not thank you, but you interrupted my snack time. I had my melon seeds ready." The hospital was diagonally across from the police station, and within 5 minutes, the police arrived. They took both of them away. After they were taken away, my assistant sighed. "Thank goodness you cut ties with CEO Owen back then, or else. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been me getting hit today." Owen's mother dared to lay hands on Lila because 1, Lila had been trying to please her from the start, giving her a sense of superiority. 2, Lila didn't have the confidence to divorce Owen completely and turn against his mother. Seeing Owen's mother hit her, and she still didn't dare to fight back, says it all. The next day, the gossip journalists in City A, who were worried about their lack of juicy news, spread the incident. They even had pictures, high-resolution ones, showing clearly how much hair Owen's mother had pulled from Lila. Pictures provided by me. Thus, Owen's mother's incident of hitting her daughter-in-law, who was pregnant and landed in the police station, became widely known. I've told her before, don't enter the circle of nobility before you even set foot in it, but she didn't listen to me. It became quite a big joke. As soon as this gossip came out, some enthusiastic media friends dug up the old rumors about Lila trying to usurp my position and spread them to ride the wave of attention. The entire internet scolded Lila, saying she deserved it, tarnishing her and Owen's reputation together. After scolding Lila and Owen, the enthusiastic netizens congratulated me from afar. Congratulations to Sister Ivy for getting out of this mess back then. I was speechless. Thank you all. I didn't want you to see my joke back then, but after more than 2 years, you still managed to bring the joke back to me through indirect tactics. Chapter 19. Misfortunes never come singly. Another 2 months passed. While things were chaotic in Owen's family, problems arose in the company as well. The subsidiary was found to have falsified accounts, evaded taxes, and was reported, leading to an investigation. From the moment I found out Owen replaced the manager I had brought in with his mother and Lila's relative, I knew he was up to no good. His subsidiary was beginning to go downhill. On top of that, I occasionally snatched a few deals from him. However, I didn't expect things to go south so quickly. After hearing this news, Caleb patted his chest and said, "Thank goodness I had foresight and pulled out." When he replaced the finance department head with his mother's niece, I knew something was fishy. I casually praised him. "You truly are quite clever." Caleb returned the compliment insincerely. "It takes one to know one." But neither of us mentioned the whistleblower, pretending it had nothing to do with us. Following this incident, Owen's subsidiary collapsed at a staggering speed. The main company was also affected by the subsidiary's downfall, losing numerous deals. I managed to snatch a few more clients from him, earning a hefty sum. Despite Owen's efforts to clean house by removing all of Lila's relatives from the company and donating $5 million to a poverty-stricken area to salvage his reputation, it was all in vain. The internet mocked his actions, with some even asking directly if this was all from tax evasion. Owen's main company also started to decline. Suddenly, I remembered many years ago when I was just starting out with Owen in his business venture, the company faced a crisis. The funding chain had issues. Owen was ready to give up and find a job to work for someone else, and I was the one accompanying him to seek help everywhere. During that time, we were either seeking help or on our way to seek help, and I saw all kinds of reactions from people. After we got through that tough time, he said to me, "Ivy, thank goodness for you. From now on, you'll always have a bowl of porridge to eat. I'll make sure you never go hungry." But later on, as the company grew, he not only forgot the words he once said but also tried to take away what rightfully belonged to me. Some people can only share hardships, not joys. Owen is one of those people. However, it's good that he and Lila have experienced both good and bad times together, deepening their relationship. Didn't Owen used to tell Lila that he would rather give up his current wealth to be with her and marry her? Although his company is starting to go downhill now, he is slowly fulfilling his promise to Lila. In this wave, he can be considered a real man. Promises must be kept. I have already made up my mind. If the two of them come to me together to seek help, then considering their strong bond, I will reluctantly agree to help and refrain from snatching Owen's business in the future. But it seems that Lila does not intend to share hardships with Owen. In less than half a year, the two of them divorced. Lila told everyone that she couldn't continue because of her evil mother-in-law, forcing her to terminate her second pregnancy. The real reason was that Owen's company was on the verge of collapse, and Lila didn't want to miss out on any benefits and didn't want to shoulder debts with Owen. During their divorce turmoil, Lila cheated on Owen and hooked up with an older man who was even wealthier than Owen. Looking at this fresh gossip, I was a bit bewildered. I can only sigh and say, cheating is a cycle. It makes sense. I've always said that they were playing a money game, they just had to package it as love. Lila was initially attracted to Owen's money, so since it was for money, now that she is still young and beautiful, choosing someone richer than Owen is completely correct. No problem there. I hope Owen is okay. Chapter 20. Unfortunately, things didn't go as planned. Owen ran into trouble. 3 months after Lila cheated on him, the company truly couldn't hold on any longer and had to declare bankruptcy. At this point, I couldn't help but admire Owen. Despite Lila cheating, he still didn't divorce her. Because after they got married, they bought 2 houses in their joint names, and in the event of a divorce, one house would have to be split. Therefore, after the bankruptcy settlement, he was left with almost $50 million in debt, with a portion belonging to Lila. And that wealthy older man, he immediately dumped Lila, not wanting to be a fool by helping her repay the debt. Watching the news, I sent them a message from afar. Scumbag and mistress, locked up. It is said that in the end, Owen sold the City Square apartments, the 2 villas bought under their names, and several luxury cars they owned, to repay the debts. He went back to square one, similar to when they first started their business, not exactly the same but very close. No, there is a difference. He now has an older child, a younger child, and a wife who cheated on him, and he is in his middle age. I wonder if he still has the courage he had when he first started his business to make a comeback. However, I don't care anymore. His failure is not my doing. If he hadn't brought his mother and Lila's morally questionable and mediocre relatives into the company for management, even if I had snatched a few deals from him, he wouldn't have collapsed. Epilogue. I thought I would never see Owen again in my life, but things don't always go as planned. When Caleb got married, I attended his wedding and unexpectedly ran into Owen. Owen is working as a junior supervisor at the hotel where Caleb held his wedding. It seems he no longer has the courage he had when he first started his business. I don't know how others feel when they see their ex-husband again, but as I looked at the tired Owen, despite being well-dressed, there was no ripple in my heart. It was like seeing a stranger. Neither love nor hate. Owen looked at me for a long time, then approached and said, "Ivy, I'm sorry for what happened back then." I smiled at him and replied, "There's no need to apologize. It was my pettiness back then for not giving you my blessings. So now, I offer you my blessings. I wish you and Lila a long and happy life together." Owen's face turned a bit green. Nevertheless, he has now received what he sought. I added, "Now you have also made up for the 9-to-5 office life you missed out on by not marrying Lila back then. No regrets now." Owen was speechless.